It's now been a week since we arrived in Hong Kong. This video is just to highlight some of the similarities that we've noticed with life in the UK, some differences as well, and just our initial thoughts really.
In this last week, we have managed to see quite a lot of Hong Kong, both the busy areas and also the more suburban areas, as we've been apartment hunting, shopping, going out to eat, and I started work this week.
So one of the big things that we've noticed since being here is just the complete difference in heat to what we're used to in the UK. We're just kind of getting used to it now. You have very drastic changes from shopping centres to being outside. Because of the differences between the inside and outside, sometimes it is quite likely to get colds if we're not used to it, and unfortunately I did come down with an ever so slight cold. We very quickly purchased an umbrella. After getting here, we were noticing a lot of the locals would walk around with umbrellas in the sun just to protect them. Even though the hottest it's kind of been temperature-wise has been 35 degrees Celsius, the UV index here is much higher than what we're used to in Europe, so we really do need to stay protected. On the first few days, I was putting suntan lotion on, but I even got sunburnt through my t-shirt in the areas I hadn't applied the sunscreen. So we do have to watch out for that being here. It is a very different type of heat.
One of the reasons we moved to Asia was for the great food. So we have spent quite a lot of this week going out to eat, and we've noticed a few things. Firstly is the queuing system. So we have found that in some restaurants we need to go up and press a screen, see how many people there are to eat, and then we'll be given a ticket with a number. So that's quite similar to some queuing systems in Sweden actually, so we were fairly used to it. Another thing we noticed was when we go to the table, their setup is slightly different. So first of all, there will often be a toothpick there, which is super useful for both of us. And something we're not quite used to was that we're normally served warm water. So sometimes lukewarm, sometimes almost boiling. And we have had mixed feedback about whether that's for cleaning utensils or if we're meant to drink the warm water. The one time we ordered cold water, we did have to pay for it. So I think warm water is the norm. If you can clarify that for us, please let us know in the comments below. Another thing we noticed, which you'll probably know about if you've been to Wagamama's, is that despite the fact we ordered food at the same time, it does come at different times, which is absolutely fine for us because we do tend to share our each other's plates. So what did surprise us is the amount of Western food out here. We were expecting some, but there's literally a McDonald's on every street that we've been to. We also see lots of Starbucks, Subway, KFC, so there is Western food everywhere. One thing we have had to adjust to is coffee prices. They do tend to be about £5, £6, at least where we've been, which is almost as much as a meal out here. So we have had to cut back on coffee drinking ever so slightly. Everything else has been
great.
We love the food here, it's great.
Exactly. So one of the big things that we've noticed about being here is the transport system. There is a great public transport network here, varying from the metro to the buses, to minibuses, shuttle buses, taxis and Uber. All of them are very reasonably priced. Going across 2 lines, maybe 5 or 6 stops, about 25-30 minutes, you're looking at about the equivalent of 60 or 70p. So yeah, it's a lot cheaper than what we're used to in London. Another thing that is a big difference from London is that the metros are air conditioned, which is very nice when you're out in 35-degree heat. They do often get quite busy around peak times, but most of the time I haven't had too much issues with that. Buses and minibuses are all very cheap as well, very efficient, very convenient as well. So yeah, the transport here is really great. We've had to adjust slightly. Yinka used to walk to work in Sweden. I used to cycle everywhere. We can't really do that anymore because the environment doesn't really lend itself to it. It's far too hot. There are cycle lanes here, especially in this area in the New Territories, but I can't imagine cycling in this weather. I would just become an absolute puddle. One thing to note is very important, you cannot eat or drink anything on buses or metros. It's very strict policy. You can't even eat within the paid area. So once you scan your ticket, past the barrier, you cannot eat or drink in that area of the station. And one of the other things that we've noticed is the shopping centres. There are a lot of shopping centres here. They are very big as well. And what you often find is that one half is a lot bigger, and that will often have all the Western shops like H&M and Zara and some Western food outlets. And then on the other side, there'll be all the local stores, which are much smaller corridors, much smaller shop spaces. But yeah, it's just interesting that we've noticed that a few times now.
One thing we were kind of expecting was for apartments and hotels not to have floors with the number 4 in them. So we were aware that because of the way the number 4 is pronounced in either Cantonese or Mandarin, it does sound the same as the word die. So we know that it's kind of seen as unlucky. So we were expecting that. Something we weren't expecting was that in the apartments we've been viewing, there's normally 3 or 4 lifts, and they won't actually go to every floor. So one might go to 2, 5 and 7, the next might go to 3, 8 and 13, and you just need to be aware that you can't just get on any lift to get to any floor.
And one of the other things that we did kind of expect before coming here was the literal way that I stand out, being 2 meters tall, 6'7". Quite often kids, they like to stare, which is totally fine. It's just something that we were kind of expecting, but it's quite funny to notice just going about our day.
One of the positive things we noticed was, despite being such a busy city, there are so many green areas, so many parks, beaches, loads of water everywhere. So there is actually quite a lot of nature out here, which is great for me because I love being outside.
Obviously, one of the big topics out in Hong Kong right now are the protests. So we knew coming out here we did need to educate ourselves, be aware of it, try and understand kind of what's going on and different perspectives. A lot of people we speak to do bring it up themselves. They're very passionate about it because it is the topic on everyone's mind right now. When the protests are happening, they're always planned in advance and the areas are well known, so you just need to stay out to that area. And so far since we've been here, it hasn't affected us at all. There's been no worries with that.
I would just add that people have been really quick to reassure us that day to day, Hong Kong is just such a safe place to be. So this is really out of the norm for them, which is why we're not really concerned about moving here. Those are our views of what we've noticed so far. Just to let you know, we have recently found an apartment, we have signed the contract, so probably our next video will just be talking you through and showing you the process, and hopefully soon an apartment tour will be coming up soon.
Comment down below if you have any video suggestions of anything you'd like to see in Hong Kong, any questions you have whatsoever.